Tonight we'll be diving into the deeply nourishing and powerfully transformative heart chakra. So, this energetic center is all about how we give and receive love, not just romantic love, but also self compassion, self love, forgiveness, and even how we perceive our grief. So if you have been feeling disconnected, out of sorts, maybe guarded, maybe overgiving, or just disconnected from your own true center, then this is your sign to tune in to this important energetic center. Tonight, I'm going to be sharing with you several ways that you can balance your heart chakra to help you bring yourself back into alignment, open up your heart to receiving, and just feel an overall sense of relief and lightheartedness. So, merry meet. I am Aislin. This is Ask Aislin, and tonight we are here talking about how to balance the heart chakra. So, if you are with us live, say hi in the chat. Let us know that you are here. Merry meet to those joining us. I see Andrea's here and Kurt. Merry meet. Welcome, everyone. So if you like what you hear, leave a heart or a thumbs up somewhere in the feed. And as always, we have our Q&A at the end of the episode, so you can leave questions and comments in the chat. I'll be watching that as we go. And even if you're not watching us here live, you can still leave your questions. I go back after the episode and answer anything I didn't answer during the live feed. So we have a lot to talk about tonight. We're going to be diving into mostly how to balance the heart chakra, though we will start by saying a little bit of the background of the heart chakra, how to know if your heart chakra needs some extra balancing or not. The reality is that a lot of us do need some attention in this important center. It's a tough world that we've chosen to incarnate into. There's a lot of trauma and a lot of things that will bring the heart out of balance. And so it's wise, especially as energy um, givers and people who are especially highly receptive to energy. We tend to carry a lot of other people's energy, and a lot of times we carry that in the heart. So I've rarely found a witch, empath, or other magically kind of minded person who didn't need a little bit of work in this area, and oftentimes we need a lot, especially the more sensitive that we are. So as we go through, let us know how you feel your heart chakra is. Do you feel balanced here? Do you feel unbalanced here? Have you done any work with your heart chakra in the past? And then just saying hi to a few others who are coming in. I see in the chat, Carmen's here and Glitter. Hi guys, and Cindy, Mary Meet, and Rebecca is here, but she can't stay too long. But it's nice to see you all. All right, so let us dive in and talk about the heart, a bit about the heart chakra first. So the heart chakra is called Anahata in Sanskrit. Now, Anahata translates to two different things. We're going to talk about both of them. Both of them are important when it comes to our understanding of the heart chakra. So, on one hand, Anahata translates to unstruck sound. So, this reflects the sound that is produced in the universe, even when there is nothing physical producing that sound. So, this is the idea that there's this always present sound, primordial sound that essentially gives birth to the universe, and through which all other sounds are also created. This is also connected to the sound Om. And so sometimes you will hear Om talked about as the sound that existed before any other sound was audible or heard, and that is the ever-present sound of the universe. So this helps us check into this part of us that vibrates with that primordial sound. In a lot of ways, we might say that this is a energy center that creates or that connects us to that primordial sound itself. Now, another translation of the word anahata is unhurt. And this one is also very interesting. It reminds us that there is this essence of ourselves. We could call it the soul, that it persists right beyond death, in between incarnations. This is the part of us that is never hurt. So even when we move through grief, we move through difficult emotions, the this part of us, there's that part of us that is never hurt, is always whole. And maybe we don't always notice that, right? Because we get pretty wrapped up in our own experience. But if we could step back sometimes and remind ourselves that there is that essence of us that can't truly be hurt. It starts to change our perception of the pain that we experience and the grief we experience over time. So the heart itself, the heart chakra, is the bridge between the upper and the lower energy centers. And so, in that way of looking at it, it's also the bridge between the physical and the spiritual. So, as witches, we talk a lot about the phrase as above, so below, and we actually can experience that very deeply in our own bodies within our chakra systems. So, what is going on in the lower three chakras is going to affect what goes on in the upper three chakras. And what goes on in the upper three chakras is going to affect what goes on in the lower three chakras. And our heart is in the center, sort of navigating that space in between these two groups of energy centers. So here, as the heart as a bridge, if we have lots of blockages in this area, you can kind of imagine like if you were trying to pass over a bridge, and let's say it had been 4 or 5 lanes and now we have it down to 1 lane, you can imagine all the traffic backing up trying to pass over that water, right? But when we have our energy open and flowing well, it's like a highway or a road that isn't limited by the number of lanes, and the energy moves effectively through it, connecting the lower part of us to the upper part of us. So if you are having trouble manifesting things, sometimes it can have to do with that connection, that disconnect between the physical and the spiritual, and a lot of times that comes back to the heart. So, for this reason, balancing the heart chakra can be especially important to us, particularly when we are trying to manifest something and we're noticing that we're having that disconnection between, like maybe we have all these thoughts, we know how to, we can visualize, we can imagine how to put this into motion, but we can't quite bring it into the physical. Looking at the heart could be an important place to look. Now the heart chakra is visualized to be green in color, and it is connected to the element of air, which we will talk about a little bit more later when we're talking about how to balance the heart. The symbol of the heart chakra is the 12-petaled lotus flower, and with two intersecting triangles in the center of it. And so one of the triangles points downward and represents the lower three chakras, the root, the sacral chakra, and the solar plexus. And then the second triangle faces upwards and represents the upper three chakras, the throat, the third eye, and the crown. And then, of course, the heart is in the middle. So working with that six-pointed star can remind us of the intersection between the physical and the spiritual, and can also help us connect to the heart chakra. Now, the theme of the heart chakra is unconditional love and compassion. So, unconditional love always starts with us first, with self love. And for many people, this is going to be the work, is figuring out how to truly love ourselves, not just in certain areas, but to love ourselves in all areas, from our physical appearance to the skills and the abilities that we have, to the way that we move through the world. All of this comes under that umbrella of self-love. Now, self-care is an indication of the level of self-love that we have. So if we find that self-care is very difficult, it means that we're having a difficult relationship with ourselves, with our ability to love ourselves. Now, the important thing to remember is that self-care does not look the same for all people. So sometimes people will try to project their own need for self-care onto you by saying things like, you're not doing this, you should do this, maybe you don't love yourself enough, or you're not giving yourself enough care. But it's not always the same for everybody. Some people find self-love is putting on makeup and wearing nice clothes and getting your hair done and getting your nails done and your a massage or things like that. And other people aren't interested in those things. To them, self-love is eating well, or moving their body well, or telling themselves affirmations, or self-love can be nurturing your inner child, playing games, keeping your heart light. So everybody's self-care looks different. And so it's important for us to remember that, like when it really comes time for us to give ourselves self-care, not to compare it to somebody else, but to ask ourselves truly in the heart, what do we need the most right now to love ourselves? So when you, again, notice that your self-care is lacking, it's always an important question to ask yourself, why? Why is it lacking right now? Now, sometimes it's because everything gets so busy in our lives, and we put everybody else first because a lot of us are very giving. We're called here for sometimes healing purposes. We're empaths. We're open to other people's energy. But again, we need to look at, why does that self-care become so hard for us? Why is it so hard to give that to others and not to us? Now, the most common blockage of the heart chakra oftentimes is this one of self-love. So the heart chakra can also, though, create blockages within itself through grief. Now, grief is a natural state that we do need to feel. We need to express it. We need to feel it. We also need to do that in our own time. So sometimes when we are experiencing really raw grief that is it's very present, it might be very recent, it can be hard to do much besides just basic things. And sometimes even the basic things are hard, like eating, getting enough sleep, things like that. It's important for us to take care of ourselves during that time, leaning into self-care. And then eventually, as we move through the grief, we come through different stages, right? And if we continue to stay in those initial stages where it's so heavy in the heart and we're having trouble taking care of ourselves, if we persist in that state for a long time after the event that caused the grief is over, then we might start to look at our heart chakra and how we can work through some of those blockages. So we want to feel the grief. We want to eventually process the grief, perhaps talking about it with others, perhaps putting it into some kind of a physical project, right? Sometimes people like to create art around it, or music. Sometimes people want to do scrapbooking around their grief, or journaling around their grief. So however you process your grief, it's important to make sure you do process it at some point, or it will lay heavy in the heart, and will contribute to blockages there. Um, okay, so let us talk about how some of these imbalances in the heart chakra manifest. How would you know that you had some imbalances here? So like I said in the beginning, for many people, this is going to be an area to work on. Like I said, I've rarely met a witch, especially the quite sensitive witches that I know, who didn't carry something in the heart in the way of blockages that they could work on. So your heart chakra blockages can manifest either emotionally and mentally, or they can manifest physically. And oftentimes they will manifest in both ways. And so we're going to talk about both of those ways. So if you feel your heart has some blockages, let us know here. And especially as I start going through these lists, also let us know if you experience any of these things. Now, the more of these things that you experience, the more likely there is a heart chakra imbalance. Okay, so how to look at some of these emotional and mental areas of imbalance in the heart. One would be jealousy. And we'll talk about that a little bit later, about how to work through shadow work around feelings of jealousy and envy. But if we hold a lot of jealousy and envy in the heart, this is definitely a sign that we're holding energy here, right, and not letting it move. And so this would indicate some blockages of the heart. Extreme grief. So like I said, in those initial days in weeks and even months of experiencing grief over the loss of a person, or we can have grief over the loss of other things too, not just people and animals, but also jobs, right? Or dreams that we feel have kind of died somewhere along the way. So we can have grief over a lot of things. But if we have that extreme grief that lasts much longer than, and it is where it gets tough. What is the typical amount of time that grief should last? There isn't one easy answer for everybody. But we often will know when our grief has become extreme and when it's going on and on and on. Difficulty trusting others. So a lot of the traumas and the pains that we experience that cause the heart chakra problems will also cause us to not trust others. So a lot of heartbreak will cause us to worry about getting close, whether unconsciously or consciously, to people in the future. And then this can create sort of a self-fulfilling prophecy. So we don't get close to people, or we don't reach out to people, and others don't get as close to us, and then it just keeps this process spiraling. Emotional numbness. So sometimes when there's a lot of pain and trauma, we hold it in the heart, but sometimes we just go numb. We feel numb in the heart. We may feel numb in other parts of the body, and energetic body. We may have difficulty forming healthy relationships, not being able to get very close to people, allowing ourselves into more abusive relationships, being abusive in relationships. We may feel isolated or withdrawn from others. We may be codependent and clingy. So all of these can indicate these are emotional indications that we are having some blockages in the heart. Constant need for reassurance from other people, and desperation in relationships. Also desperation to always be in relationships, or it can, on the other extreme, desperation to never be in relationships of any kind. So if you want to learn more about kind of how to tell about these emotional symptoms and manifestations of heart chakra imbalances, I encourage you to check out a different episode we have. It's from a long time ago. Episode 69 goes into the heart more in depth into the heart chakra, how to tell if you have excessive versus restrictive energy in your heart. The reality is usually we have both, but that will go into more detail. And then if you are a part of our Shadow Seekers membership, even better, because we have 2 full-length workshops on the heart chakra where we go into much greater depth into all of this. So if you're in Shadow Seekers and you're looking for those workshops, just let me know if you can't find them. But now let us shift to physical manifestations. And again, if any of this is resonating with you guys, let me know. I see Adam is also here. Merry meet, everyone. So anybody feel that you have heart chakra imbalances? And do you think that, do you resonate with any of these emotional or mental manifestations? Okay, so physical manifestations. So these will show up as disorders of the heart and of the lungs, of the breasts, and of the arms. And sometimes we forget all about the arms. So it's not just right in the physical heart and the physical lungs. It can also go into the shoulders and down into the arms, into the wrists, into the hands. All of this is connected to the heart chakra. So I have a really bad wrist that I've fallen on and broken several times. It's a real Achilles heel in my yoga practice because I can't put much weight on it. But this is definitely connects down my arm, up into my shoulder, into my heart. And so I know that I need some heart chakra work to kind of work through this. And when my wrist gets worse, that's an indication to me that perhaps some of the blockages in my heart chakra are also getting worse or getting greater, right? And so that's what we should be looking for too, is if we normally sort of have issues of the arm, of the shoulders, the chest, the upper back, and then you notice those things getting worse, it's going to be an indication of, your blockages in your heart chakra also increasing. Now, other physical signs of heart chakra kind of blockages: shortness of breath, any breathing issues like asthma. If you are somebody who gets a lot of bronchitis, a lot of lung issues, if you're the one who always kind of gets that whenever you get a cold. There was a time in my life when every time I got sick, it seemed like I always also got bronchitis. And so there was a lot of heart chakra issues that were going on at that time for me, and working through them has greatly helped me. Asthma, circulation problems, the issues of the thymus gland, also issues of the immune system. So if you have some immune system deficiencies, and when you notice that your immune system in particular is weakened, that can also be an indication of some heart chakra imbalances. Now, usually that's also some solar plexus imbalances. And what we also know is that any chakras that are near one another in the physical body also have a connection. So a lot of times if you sort of establish, yeah, I think that my heart chakra needs some work, likely your solar plexus needs some work, and your throat does as well, because of how close these energy centers are to one another. I already mentioned tension behind the shoulder blades, pain in the chest. So sometimes I will get pain in the chest that is definitely not related to my heart. It's all muscular. A lot of times, and we're going to talk about posture as one way to balance the heart chakra, but a lot of times, sometimes the issues of sort of sore muscles in the chest that can feel like heart pain are coming from us sort of folding our wings inward like this and kind of always sitting like this. And then what that ends up doing is it shortens the muscles of that area and then eventually leads them to become weaker and then can lead to more tension in that area. So these are all signs that your heart chakra needs some work. So how do you feel about your heart chakra? So Andrea says she would say she has some imbalances in her heart chakra at this time, some trust issues, a bit of a need for praise. Yeah, and of course, needing praise, needing people to notice, our accomplishments is always natural. That's always normal. But if we notice that we need a bit more we have a bit more need for praise than usual, that would show us that maybe there's something going on with the heart chakra. And as I've said before, this isn't really a sort of one and done process. We don't just work to balance the heart chakra once and then it's over for life. It's something that we're always checking in with ourselves. Just like you would always check in with your physical health, you would always notice, right? What was going on with you physically, we should also notice what's going on in the energetic body as well. And so there are certain things will happen to us in the outside environment that may either balance the heart chakra more naturally or will unbalance it, right? And so when we start to notice things, sort of the manifestations of heart chakra imbalances heightening, that tells us that something is going on here and it leads us back to this area for work. Okay, anybody else feel the heart chakra is one that you want to work with or you need to work with? Let us know. So I'm going to now jump into the ways to balance your heart chakra. So we're going to have a lot of different ways, some of them mundane, some of them magical. The reality is that usually there's a pretty fine line between magical and mundane. And again, just if you think about what we're talking about, this entire episode, all the episodes about the chakras really show us that there is very little difference, the interconnection between the physical, the spiritual, the mental, and the emotional. All of these are our bodies, right? Our physical body, our energetic body, our emotional body, our mental body. They are all very interconnected, like a set of Russian nesting dolls, one inside the other. And so we really can't expect to have issues of just one system and not the other. So there may be physical signs of the heart imbalances, there may be emotional ones, there may be mental ones, and then there will be energetic ones as well. Okay, so once we establish that we need to work on the heart chakra, what can we do? So the very first thing is breath work. Now, while breath work is great for balancing all chakras, it is the quintessential way to balance the heart. This is because of the connection to the heart and the air element. And so we will talk about working with the air element in just a moment as well. So the breath, so I guess I'm going to start by asking you, how well do you breathe? And if you are like most people, you do not breathe very well. And I do not breathe very well sometimes, even as a breath work teacher and somebody who tries to be cognizant of this a lot of the time. I still will notice I'll catch myself breathing very shallowly, especially recently with a lot of stress. So sometimes when there's a lot of stress and there's a lot of work and there's a lot of things to upset us, it's important to catch ourselves and see, where are you breathing? You're breathing down in your belly. You're breathing really rapidly up in your chest. And there are some traditions, many Eastern traditions, in fact, will say that the longer in between breaths, or the more we can extend our breath, the longer we live. And there are practices that actually try to train people to only have a few breaths per minute instead of the many that we often do. And this, they say, adds to your longevity. But even if you don't believe that part about it, it's still, when we can lengthen our breath, we are really changing our energy in a lot of ways. And and that can lead to a lengthening of our lifespan, but it can also lead us to a release of negative emotions and feelings, feeling lighter, having less worries, having less tension in the body. So really important. This is why I'm starting all this list of practices with the breath, because of how important it is. Now, the word prana, Prana, is the Sanskrit word that we refer to when we're talking about breath from the Ayurvedic tradition or a Vedic yoga tradition. Prana translates to life force, sometimes breath, but breath equals life force. Pranayama, which is the name for the practicing of breath work, it translates to breath control, and that equals the control of the life force. So essentially, that word pranayama is telling us how to control your life force through breath. And to me, that's incredible. And I think that a lot of people, they don't even like really literally go through their lives. They don't even think about how they're breathing. And here you have the key to how you can control your own life force. This is the energy that creates everything around you. It's going in and out of your body. And if you're not utilizing it to its fullest potential, you have a lot of space to make some changes, right? And to actually be more optimally able to work with your life force energy. Now, to me and to others who blend kind of Eastern and Western traditions, I believe that breath work is the single best thing that a person can do for themselves. And if you're not doing it already, I would suggest starting because it's that life changing, it's that game changing for a lot of people. Now, both our physical health and our emotional and our mental health can all be improved through breath work. Also, our spiritual evolution, the ability to move energy through the body, within the body, move energy from outside of the body into the body, and from inside of the body out of the body. You can use breath work in your spells. If you get really good at moving it through your body and holding it in different parts of your body, you can then direct it in huge bursts out into the universe and send that intention into something else, like into a sachet you're charging, or a talisman, or an amulet, or a sigil. Um, so most of the time, when we're talking about the heart chakra, the breath work that's most effective is going to be really deep breathing. Um, and most of us do not breathe deeply. So the lungs themselves can hold about 2 pints of air when fully expanded, and your average person, at best, is usually filling up about 1 pint of air, and at worst, which is a lot of people, even less than 1 pint. So if you kind of think about what that means, most people are using half or less than half of the life force energy that they could. Now, the reality is, are you really going to be able to fill your lungs to their fullest capacity at all times? Probably not, but the more you become cognizant of how you breathe, the more you are going to fill up your lungs, and you're going to begin to make this a habit and an unconscious one. But it all starts with you having to do this consciously first. Shallow breathing becomes a habit. A lot of times we're cut off from the bottom part of our body, especially when we're up in our head, in anxiety and worry. We start to breathe very shallowly up here in the chest. And if we are constantly doing that, right, over time, we're just not getting as much prana as we could. So deep breathing, exploring how deeply you can breathe, can be important, because you are going to be able to then utilize more of the energy in your body. So just out of curiosity, who here does breath work? How often do you do breath work? Is it a regular practice? Is it something you do every once in a while? Um, So Andrea said, as a rider, she's I practice deep breathing because horses react to energy, so deep breathing is important, and that is a really great point to make. I mean, our deep breathing not just only affects us, but it affects others around us. So if you have ever tried to breathe in tune with another person or breathe in tune with an animal, um, you know, our when our breathing is low, that usually indicates to the unconscious mind within our own body and to others around us that we're in a more relaxed state. We're less of a threat too, so that's why animals kind of perceive that, and they then sort of entrain and sort of sync with our own energy as well. So breathing deeply for to be in tune with animals, like Andrea is doing, is the added benefit to your relationship with the animals and also your relationship with yourself. And then Andrea said Mula Bandha for balance and centering while in the saddle, and that's cool. And so for those who don't know what Mula Bandha is, I'll explain it here. So Mula Bandha is a lock, an energetic lock that you have in your body. And so we all have several of these energetic locks. And the Mula Bandha is the easiest one to use, and it is the lowest one in the body. So it's very easy to engage it. And so all you have to do is sort of imagine, well, people will say lift the pelvic floor, but sometimes that doesn't always make sense how to do that. Or they'll say engage Mula Bandha or the root lock. But the easiest way to think about is how, if you had to really pee really bad, like how would you stop yourself from peeing? Those muscles that you would engage to hold it in, that is engaging Mula Bandha. Or sometimes people will say like, um, if you had to poop, you're trying to hold it in. That it's basically you're lifting those lower muscles. And then what you can do is when you do breath work, you can hold the breath in certain parts of your body and let it sort of energize. And I always say like percolate. It builds energy like a pressure cooker, and it builds, 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 and then you let it go. You can let the Mula Bandha release it, and you can let the energy out of your body. Um, so Glitter said, and so Andrea was saying she uses it for balancing and centering. So engaging Mula Bandha is good for holding energy in the body, but it's also good for grounding and centering. So if you're trying to balance on one foot, try to engage your Mula Bandha, your root lock, lift the pelvic floor, and you may find that you're steadier. So Glitter said she had not done breath work before meeting me, and Glitter's in our Shadow Seekers membership, and so she has been coming to our breath work and our Kundalini classes, and I know she's been loving them. And it can be really game changing when you really start practicing like that and you hadn't before, how that changes your energy. Now Sonia said she wants to pick it back up. She said I used to do it frequently for singing exercises. Yes, and so as a singer, myself as well, working with diaphragmatic, deep belly breathing is really important for a singer so you can have more air, more energy to belt out your songs, right? And again, it's one of those things that sometimes we do it frequently and then we fall off, and it's good that we get reminders every once in a while to maybe go back to that practice, see what you could how you could benefit from it by returning to a more regular practice. So Kurt said he has sleep apnea, so mostly when sleeping with his CPAP machine. And I will tell you, for people who have like sleep apnea, there is some evidence that this breath work and doing a practice of breath work before bed can help. I will tell you, as somebody who suffers from asthma, and has sometimes has like kind of low lung capacity because of it. My daily and almost daily breathwork practice has greatly expanded the capacity of my lungs, and I have evidence of it actually from an app on my phone that is testing my lung capacity. And so it's really neat when we see kind of scientific evidence for some of these changes, some of these energetic exercises that we're doing. But it can also help people before bedtime who have sleep apnea, so it's worth trying. Glitter said it's been life changing. Yeah, it's been life changing for me too. Jason says Tabitha does breath work every day and he's starting to catch up with her. Yeah, and it is the consistency of the practice is where it's at. If we do it once a week, yes, you will have benefits 100%. Just like if you do meditation once a week, you will 100% have benefits from it. But the more you do it, the more you make it into the regular practice, that's where you really start to see the benefits increase. And I always tell people it doesn't have to be every day. So if you just say almost every day, that gives you the out of having to feel guilty if you can't get to it every single day. Life is very busy, and we want to make sure that we make our practices as easy as possible to be successful at them, or we start to, like, even if we're not consciously aware of this, we start to kind of get in our own way because we're not living up to that standard we said, oh, I will do this every single day. And when we don't meet that, then we start to fall off and we're less likely to continue. But if you say every other day, or I shouldn't say every other day, it's usually better to do it almost every day. That's what I say. But even every other day, it's better than once a week. And once a week is better than never. So you find your level of it. But what will often will happen is that people who do regular breath work will eventually decide that it's so beneficial that you feel the differences almost immediately, and then it becomes something that you just look forward to. So I say 5 minutes a day is all you need to get started. So a couple of breaths that you can do are the healing square breath. So the healing square breath is very good for neutralizing your kind of energy. And so you're going to do an even inhale, exhale, and you do some holds in between. So you would inhale for a count of 4, you hold for a count of 4, you exhale for a count of 4, and then you hold for a count of 4, and then you repeat it. And that's why it's called the healing square, or sometimes people will call it box breath, because you're doing 4 counts on each side of that box. Now, if you have kind of lower lung capacity, you can always start with like 3, 3, 3, and 3. And if you got more lung capacity, you can always go up to 5, 6. You just want to make it even on each side of that. Now, another type of breath that's similar, that's very good for the heart, but would be good for anybody trying to expand your lung capacity, is to try to do some longer exhales than inhales. So you might inhale for a count of 4, and then hold for a count, and then exhale for a count of 8. And the longer that we can make our breath, you could eventually even extend that inhale past 4, see how long you can do it. And that can be especially good for increasing your lung capacity and getting you up into getting you out of that upper chest breathing and more down into your diaphragm. And then there are other kinds of breath work you can do. So that besides like neutralizing breaths like the healing square, you can do some activating breath like breath of fire, or you can do some cooling breaths like Satali pranayam, which is like the curled tongue breath or the straw sipping breath. And I definitely recommend breath work. If you haven't tried it, just Google a video on it, or just try a counted breath. And you don't even need a video to lead you, but sometimes people like someone to lead them. If you're in our Shadow Seekers membership, we have tons of breathwork videos, and we're reorganizing our membership portal to put all of them into one place. And so anyway, if you're in Shadow Seekers and would like to do some breath work, we have a lot of options for you. If you can't find the videos, let me know. And if you are interested in breath work, and we will talk a little bit at the end about Shadow Seekers and how you can join us too if you're not already a member. But let's move on to the next idea for balancing the heart chakra, working with the air element. So we said the air element is the element connected to the heart chakra. So different ways that we can work with the air element is stimulating your mind, learning something new, always reading about something new can be very stimulating and really help to connect you to the earth element. The air element, setting up an air altar, or making sure there's a place on your altar that represents the air element. So easy things to represent the air element are incense, a sage, or kind of other herbal stick or bundle. Feathers can represent the air element. Imagery of or symbols of birds or insects that fly, bats, things like that, all connected to the air element. You get outside in the fresh air and breathe. You could do your breathing exercises outside, would be great. letting the wind blow over you and through you. And that can be really releasing too. So as the wind kind of blows through you, through your hair, through your clothing, you can imagine it blowing all of your worries or your troubles or the things you want to let go of behind you. That could be a great practice to connect to the air element. Working with animals associated with the air element, so birds in particular crows and ravens, eagles, hawks, but also bats, insects like dragonflies, butterflies, and bees. And so any of these ways, any way that you can find to connect to the air element is also always going to connect you to the heart chakra, even if you're not doing specific heart chakra practices. Just working with the air element immediately means you're also working with the heart chakra. Now, the color that's typically associated with the air element is either yellow or light blue. And so those could be some colors that you would bring in through candles or altar cloths or different things if you wanted, or flowers, different things if you wanted to have yourself an air altar or a part of your altar dedicated to the air element. Now, the next idea for working with the heart chakra, besides the air element, is working with the color green. So, whereas the air element is connected to yellow or light blue, depending on your tradition, the heart chakra is connected to the color green. So, wearing green is one way to connect to the heart chakra. I'm wearing one of my green necklaces today. This is a venturine. Um, you can have green candles, like I said, green clothing, or wearing accents to your clothing. If you're like me and you don't wear a lot of color, I like to wear accents to show the chakra or to resonate with the chakra I'm working on. Stones and jewelry. So, besides the aventurine, basically any stone that is green will connect you to the heart chakra. Emerald. Tourmaline is really pretty. It can sometimes be green, but there's also tourmalines that are pink. And pink is another color that connects to the heart chakra. Jade is another good stone for the heart chakra. Malachite. Ruby zoisite is one of my favorites because it blends green and pink together. Also, other pink stones like rhodocrossite, rhodonite, and rose quartz. And of course, my lists are never exhaustive, but it gives you some stones to think about if you want to balance your heart chakra. And then the ways that you can use the stones are to carry them, wear them in jewelry, put them in sachets, and carry them with you. You can put them under your pillow. If you're doing some meditation, you can always lie down and you can place the stones on your heart chakra and just let them absorb through your skin. You can place them in water and you can make a gemstone elixir, which you can use to bless yourself. You can drink it. You can add it to spells. So lot of options to bring in kind of the magical side of how to work with the heart chakra. And then our food is always a great way to work to balance some of our chakras. So green colored foods like green bell peppers or other green peppers, leafy greens, green apples, any green fruit, kiwis. I like watermelon because it's green on the outside and pink on the inside. To me, it's a perfect heart chakra food. Avocados, green tea, but again, anything that's green will work here. So then we can also, and as some of these practices, we go through some of these practices, let us know if any of these sound good to you. Do you do any of these things? Maybe you're already doing these and you don't know it. You're already working on your heart chakra. Okay. Going back to the chat. So Jason was saying that Tabitha does her breath work along with her morning and evening facial routine. So it's just become a kind of part of your everyday life. And that is the key, because if we can make it into the routine we do every day, it's a lot easier to keep that practice going. So, like, we always brush our teeth, right? We've made that a routine. Or doing your facial washes, things like that. If you pair the breath work with that, you can just do it 5 minutes in the mirror while you're getting ready in the morning or getting ready at bed. You can make that a daily practice that way. Glitter said, if you're not a member of Shadow Seekers, you should be. we would love to have you. And we'll talk about how you can join us at the end. Jason said they saw a beautiful hummingbird today. It was a beautiful green one. Yeah, heart chakra. Oh, how pretty. Um, Oh, right. So another idea for working with the heart chakra is connecting to deities. So if you like to work with deities in your practice, any deity that you work with can help you balance your heart chakra. So you never have to feel like you have to go to a different deity for this help. You just tell your own patron, it's time for me to work on my heart chakra, and then ask them for how to do that and listen for their advice through the signs and synchronicities, or any way that you communicate with your deities. But if you do want to draw in or bring in a deity that is specifically connected to the heart chakra, usually it's going to be deities connected to love or deities that are connected to the air element. So we always sort of split these deities into deities from the Hindu pantheon and deities from other pantheons. That's because the chakra system itself comes from the East, comes from India, and the deities that are connected to the heart chakra are Vishnu and Lakshmi. So the sacred marriage between them, the two of them, and the love that they have for one another connects us to kind of the merging of the divine feminine and the divine masculine within us. So we can find our self-love by merging those two together and working with Vishnu and Lakshmi. Also, the god Kama, which is the god of love and the source of the name of the book Kama Sutra, also is a great deity to work with for the heart chakra. Now, other pantheons, Aphrodite and Venus, Freya, Pan, Eros, Isis, Kuan Yin is one of my favorites because she can be very good for helping you draw in self-compassion, and Hathor. And of course, my lists are never exhaustive, but at least gives you an idea of where to start when you're working with deities. If you'd like to draw in and work with a new deity when it comes to your heart chakra, you send out that intention that I want to work with my heart chakra and I'm open and interested in working with this deity. And you kind of listen and you look for the signs and synchronicities around you. You can also dedicate a candle to that intention and that deity to sort of open up your kind of quest for that relationship with them, and then go from there. Essential oils are also a great way to connect to chakras, and for every chakra, there is an essential oil that is great for it. And as always, there's many essential oils that are great for it. So when it comes to the heart chakra, Lang Lang, rose, lavender, and geranium are very good. And those four together, Lang Lang, rose, geranium, and lavender, together are very good for balancing hormones, especially female hormones. So if you are looking to balance your hormones, you can try to put those four, or rose can be hard to find because it's very expensive. When you find rose cheap, rose essential oil cheap, it's probably not real rose oil. But you can at least get the three: lavender, lang lang, and geranium. You can mix those into a carrier oil like sweet almond oil, and that can be an awesome oil for anybody, but especially if you're trying to balance female hormones. Jasmine, orris root, yarrow, and marjoram are also great herbs for balancing the heart chakra. Now you can use them as essential oils. You can also use the loose herb, the dry herb. You can put it in sachets that you make. If you'd like to do sachets in your spell work, you could make a heart balancing sachet for yourself and carry that with you, or sleep with it under your pillow. And some of those herbs would be great. You can also drink them in teas internally, and many essential oils are not safe to drink them internally, but at least with the loose herbs, some of them are. You can do it that way. So lavender tea could be really good, rose tea, right? Jasmine tea. Um, all right, and then the next thing is to talk about movement. So there's always something about movement that connects to each of the chakras. So in some of the lower chakras, the movements are going to look different than they will at the level of the heart. So with the heart chakra, we want to do some heart opening. So we work with our arms a lot when we're working with the heart chakra. So one of my favorite exercises, which is also a manifestation exercise, is what I call the Kundalini heart balancing exercise. And essentially you put your arms out straight on either side of you, On the inhale, you bring your right hand to your heart space. You don't touch it, you just bring it in. And then on the exhale, you bring in the opposite hand. And so inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale. So it looks something like this. And so as you do this, you can also imagine sort of opening your heart up. So again, a lot of us, we fold inward for a variety of different reasons, and we're closing off this part of our energy centers, right? So we want to open it up. So imagine like a cord attached to your heart, pulling it to the sky, and then engaging in this exercise. So it's such a good exercise. I recommend trying it for a minute to 2 minutes to even 3 minutes. And if you can work up all the way to 3 minutes, you will have a big burst of energy through your heart chakra. But even at just a minute, you're going to feel a lot when you do that. Now, another exercise that I really love is I just call it like reaching and pulling energy towards your heart. So you stick your arms out in front of you. You kind of put them into fists and bring them into your heart like this. So on the exhale, you kind of push them out like that. On the on the, let's see, yeah. So on the inhale, you push them out. On the exhale, you draw them in. Inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale. And as you do this, you can imagine pulling pranic life force towards your heart, infusing it, opening up your heart space. And that can be a particularly good exercise for the heart. And then I also like shoulder shrugs. You can do them together, or you can do one and then the other. And so you kind of inhale and exhale it down. Inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale. Or you can do them both together. Inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale. So not only are we doing heart chakra balancing because we're working with the breath, but we're also doing the movements that is kind of like the double dose of heart chakra work. So especially if you feel like you're kind of, need to open up your heart, these can be some great exercises for you. Also working with your posture. So again, kind of watching yourself when you're standing in line somewhere, when you're standing somewhere, when you're sitting somewhere, how do you sit and stand? Are you like this? So we want to lift the heart up. So one of my teachers says a humble chin and a proud heart. So imagine that there's a cord attached to your heart, pulling it up towards the sky, which lifts the chest up. And it will mean that you can breathe better too, because you're not all like crunched over like this. And then keeping the chin, we don't want the chin like pulled up. We want it kind of even. And then this is very good posture. So checking in, even if you've got terrible posture, set a timer on your watch every 30 minutes, have it go off, and then it will alert you to check your posture. It'll be interesting to see where you're at with that. And then once you make it conscious that your posture needs some work, then you can begin to kind of put it into practice. When you start to notice you're like this every time that your timer goes off, then you just remind yourself to be like this. And over time, you won't have to remind yourself because it will become more of a habit. And then if you are somebody who likes yoga, doing chest openers, cobra pose, fish pose, and camel pose are all good for the heart. Now the seed sound of the heart chakra is yum, spelled Y-A, it's spelled Y-A-M, but we pronounce it yum. Like all seed sounds, we want to intone it very low in the body, so not high up in the chest or high up in the head, so it would sound something like this. Yum. And then you can intone that 3 or 4 or 5 times, and seed sounds themselves will change the energy around you and the energy within you. So that alone can actually expand your heart chakra just by chanting that sound. And then practicing self-love. So if you find that self-love is something hard for you, think about how we could draw in more self-love. So one exercise that can be particularly good for people, though challenging, can be the mirror exercise, where you stand in front of a mirror or sit in front of a mirror and you tell yourself loving affirmations. So it can be hard sometimes to to look in the mirror and say, I love you, though it's easy to say that to other people. So other ideas would be, I am worthy of love. A lot of people have issues with feeling worthy, and so that this can actually help. And so sometimes with affirmations, people won't even try them because they think it's too simple to work, or they don't believe them. And that's the whole point behind it. You're not saying affirmations because you believe them. You're saying affirmations because you don't believe them. But if you say them enough, they begin to thread their way into your unconscious, and eventually they do change your energy. And I was somebody who thought they were stupid and I wouldn't try them until one day I did try them, and then I saw exactly what could happen and how it really can shift your mind. So if you have a limiting belief about your worthiness or your ability to be loved, see if you can transform that into a positive mantra. I'm loving to myself and others. There's an infinite supply of love. Everyone deserves love, even me. And then say those every time you're in front of the mirror, when you're there brushing your teeth or taking off your makeup, or you know, putting your contacts in and out. Say a couple of affirmations to your heart and see how that changes you, because it will over time. Now, if it's really difficult to say those kind things to yourself, imagine saying them at first to your inner child. You can even try to visualize your inner child as you say them, or imagine saying them to someone else until it becomes a little easier. Now, on kind of segueing in from that into self-care, we need to make that a priority. So if you are not making your self-care a priority, we need to figure out how you can. Really asking yourself what stands in the way of your self-care. Why is it easier to give love and care to others and not to yourself? Work through these kinds of questions in your shadow work if you're somebody who has no problem giving to others but really can't give to yourself. What are the earliest messages about self-care that you can remember? Did your mom and your dad and the people around you, did they engage in self-care? Did they love themselves? Because those early messages, they unconsciously come down into our own energetic field. And so we may need to let go of them because we're holding on to them unconsciously and we don't even realize. Now, other areas that we can work on in shadow work to kind of work through heart chakra imbalances are holding grudges. So if you are somebody who holds a lot of grudges, grudges force energy down in the body and they don't allow it to lift up. And so thinking about why we hold grudges and why we're holding on to that energy, and are there ways that we could clear it? Unhealthy boundaries. So are you able to create boundaries? Can you stick to them, or is everybody just walking over them? How can you say no? Things like that. And what do you know about where your unhealthy boundaries come from? So these are all areas that we could explore more deeply in our shadow work. Resistance to healing. So sometimes we say we want to heal, but we'll notice that we dabble and we'll do it kind of intensely for a while, and then we're out of it, and then we're back into it wanting so badly to heal, and then we're out of it. And if you notice that kind of back and forth with you, it can have a variety of different causes and reasons, but sometimes it's important to ask yourself, what are the blockages to my own self-healing, and to ask, what are the costs of healing versus what are the benefits of staying unhealed, staying just as you are. And on the surface, it may seem kind of foolish to ask that. Well, of course, we want to be more whole and we want to heal, but there are costs to healing, or perceived costs, and sometimes there can be benefits to staying unhealed, because we don't want things to change around us in our relationships or things like that. So exploring that in your shadow work can be very good. Working through jealousy and envy. Jealousy is usually when we're afraid that somebody's going to take someone or something from us, whereas envy can have something to do with lack, like we feel that we lack something that somebody else has. Now, envy can be used as a catalyst for change. And I've told this story before, but I remember when I was in college and grad school, I was sold a lot of stuff on eBay to try to make money so I could pay for my tuition and my living expenses and everything. And I would, every time I would address a book or a package to California, I would feel this pang of envy. And I was like, man, those people are so lucky to live in California. And then one day I was just like, why do you keep saying that? Why don't you figure out how to move to California? And then that began this process of me figuring it out. And I've been here for 20 years. So not all, it doesn't always have to be that dramatic, right? But really exploring the things that we're envious of and how could we bring a little bit of that into our lives, so we free up some of that energy. So if you have, and if you are having, any of these things, if if I as I read through them, they seem to ring true for you, consider joining us in Shadow Seekers. If you are in Shadow Seekers, we have a workshop called The Shadow Side of the Heart Chakra, where we go into great detail in all of these categories. And if you're not a member of Shadow Seekers, consider joining us. So I'm going to kind of segue now into telling you about Shadow Seekers. And first, I'm just looking at the chat for a second. So Sonia said her arms are burning. And if you do that exercise and you do that for like the 2 or 3 minutes, they totally will burn. And one of the things that's cool though is you will actually strengthen your arm muscles and you'll actually have some toning of your arms without doing anything else. It's great exercise all around. Cindy says that she definitely struggles with some self care. And Glitter says that sounds exactly like me. Yeah, so we struggle with a lot of these things like giving to ourselves and figuring out how to prioritize ourselves. And so that always leads back to our heart, will often lead back to our sacral chakra as well. And there is a connection between the sacral chakra and the heart. Sacral chakra is kind of about our kind of sensuality and our love in a physical way, whereas the heart is about that self-love, that compassion, but the two are very, very much connected. So if you are interested in doing this kind of work at a greater level, at a deeper level, I encourage you to join us in Shadow Seekers. So we have not been open for 6 months, but we are open now. We're open from now until the end of the day on Friday. Shadow Seekers is our shadow work and energy work membership where we do exactly this kind of work. We focus on chakras. We focus on all of these shadow work kind of issues that people, or these issues of the shadow that people can have, like how can we be better about our self-care, how can we be better about our self-love, how can we release blockages that are holding us back in our emotional and our mental bodies. So we have workshops every month that are around some kind of theme centered around shadow work, energy work, or witchcraft. This coming up in June, our theme is the throat chakra, self-expression, speaking your truth, being who you really are, putting your authentic self out into the universe. And so if you've ever had trouble speaking your truth, or if there's parts of you that you hide, this is going to be a great month for you. So you're already in Shadow Seekers, you have so much to look forward to, but we really encourage you to join us if you're not already a member. We also have rituals every month where we embody the themes that we talk about in our workshops. And then we also have office hours where people can drop in, and we don't really have any structure or theme to the office hours. You can just drop in and get some help and support. And so there's so much included in our membership. I don't know of anything out there that you can get all of this for such a low price. Sometimes these memberships where you have this kind of small group setting, they can be $100, even more at times. Our membership is $37 a month. So for just a little over a day, many of our members will tell you that this is game changing to be part of this. So not only, if you've ever had that question of like, what do I do to balance my chakras? What do I do in my shadow work? How do I start? This is exactly what we do in the membership, is we do it together. So you don't have to worry about what to do or how to start. You come be guided by us, guided by me, guided by the other members, and then having that support of not doing this on your own, because it can be a lonely journey. It can feel lonely. Sometimes your relationships change when you engage in intensive shadow work. And this helps you to feel less alone. So we also have a dedicated Shadow Seekers Facebook group where you can mingle with other members and, share your wins, share your struggles. And we also have replays of everything. So if you can't come live to stuff, we have a dedicated membership portal where all of our replays are. And for those of you guys who are in Shadow Seekers currently, who are our members from before are new. We have a new and improved membership portal that all the new members have received, and you guys are about to receive too. So it's much more organized, it's easier to find things. And then we also have live yoga and live meditation starting this summer, and live breathwork practices. So we just have everything in this membership. So if you're interested in joining us, I put the link there. You can go to the website, check it out. We're open from now until the end of the day Friday, and we would love to welcome you as the newest member of Shadow Seekers. Um, uh, so Jason says, he said, life seems to keep demanding us to heal, so we are incredibly thankful for Shadow Seekers. Andrea said Shadow Seekers is amazing. Yeah, and it can, like I said, sometimes it can feel lonely and isolating to do this work on your own. By all means, you absolutely can heal and work through all of these different things on your own. But a lot of times it just feels a lot better to have people there by your side as you're doing it. So if anybody has any other questions, comments, put them in the chat. I didn't have any questions that were left for me this week for the Q&A, but I'm here live and I'm happy to answer any questions you have. It doesn't have to be about shadow work, energy work, or witchcraft. It can be about anything. Or sorry, it doesn't have to be about the heart chakra. It can be about shadow work, energy work, witchcraft, anything related to any of those. I'm happy to answer. And so while we're waiting to see if there are any questions, let me tell you what's coming up. So on 6/3, I think this is tentative at the moment. I haven't fully decided, but I think we're going to skip that episode to align myself with my own energy and to practice what I preach. I think that I need a week off. I've been going nonstop, doing a lot of rituals. The membership's open right now. And my parents are arriving tomorrow, and they're going to be here for a week. There's just a lot going on, and I think I could use a little bit of self-care for myself. And so I haven't totally decided. We may still have an episode, but we may take off next week. But we will be back for sure on 6/10, and we are going to be doing an episode on visualization techniques. So this was a requested episode, and I'm finally getting around to doing it. So we're going to talk about how to strengthen your visualization. If you have trouble with visualizing, we'll talk about some techniques. We'll talk about the benefits of visualization, and we'll also talk about ways to work with other senses if visualization is difficult. And then on 6/17, we're going to do an episode on Litha, summer solstice, because we'll be just a few days away from the solstice. And then on 6/24, I'm not sure, but I am starting to work on all the different episodes that people have requested. And so one of them will be on 6/24. So if there are other topics that you would like to see an Ask Aislin episode about, let me know. Because I would love to make an episode on it if it's something I know about, and I feel like I could do the episode on it. Also, another announcement, our Demystifying Witchcraft course will be opening up in June, probably about mid-June. This is our signature course on witchcraft. So whereas Shadow Seekers is about how to do your shadow work and your energy work to clear out your blockages, to increase your intuition, accelerate your spiritual practice and evolution, the Demystifying Witchcraft course teaches you all the basics and the foundations of witchcraft, from calling porters, casting a circle, sealing a circle, working with deities, writing spells, the magic and science of witchcraft. All of that is all in this 13-module course. So more details will be coming on that as we get closer. Up until now, we've really only offered it to our Shadow Seekers members, but we are going to now be offering it to the public. And also, I'm toying with the idea of doing some kind of a money magic spell class to kick off the opening of Demystifying Witchcraft. So if that sounds like something you'd be interested in, put that in the comments, and the more people that are interested in it, I'll definitely make that workshop, and then we'd have like a free workshop on money magic, abundance magic, and we'd have a kind of workshop spell that would teach you, and we'll all do together. So anyway, more details to come on that. Okay, so Sonia said we will miss you, but we're also glad to have you refreshed. Yeah, I just need we won't be taking anything away. You know, I'm still, our Shadow Seekers virtual mixer party is still coming up next Friday. We're doing all that, but I just may need a week off of Ask Aislin. Everybody's saying I need some self-care. And then others are saying the money magic class sounds cool. Cool. Okay, so I definitely, I think we'll put that together, and that'll be coming sometime in June then. All right, so if you have any questions that you didn't get in the chat, you can put them in there now. Anybody who's in replay, I'm happy to answer your questions too. I'll go back through the feed, check for anything I didn't answer in the live. Leave a heart or a thumbs up somewhere in the video. That helps us get out into the feed of other people. If you're a part of our Body Mind Witchcraft Facebook group, engage in that group. Our engagement's been kind of low these last couple of weeks. Even Jazadora, our moderator, she told me that she's not even seeing our posts coming up in her feed anymore. So the more you engage in our group and on our posts and kind of go to our group and find our posts, the better that will help us. Subscribe to our YouTube, Body Mind Witchcraft. If you're not already a subscriber, we've already made it to 1,000 subscribers, which is one thing we have to do to get monetized. The next step is to get 3,000 hours video, I think 4,000 hours of video views in this calendar year. So watch some of our old episodes. We have over 100 episodes on different topics related to shadow work, energy, and work and witchcraft, and you can help us reach that goal of the 4,000 video view hours. And if you are not already on our mailing list, I'm going to put a link here. You can join us on our mailing list. That way you will never miss any of our future episodes, because we send out the link to all the replays. And you will also get a copy of The Witch's Guide to Shadow Work, absolutely free. Okay, so as always, it's so great to spend Tuesday night with you guys. And if I don't see you next week on Ask Aislin, I will see you in 2 weeks. But those of you in Shadow Seekers, I will see you before then. All right, until next time, blessed be.